Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to be talking about Total War. And I mean Total War in general, no drama from the forums, no news, just really talking about something which my channel really represents. There's a lot of Total War content here. And I, just like you guys, have been kind of burnt out with all the situations that have been happening, but recently with the release of the Old World mod, I've fired up Total War properly for the first time in, I want to say, a month. Sure, I've been playing around every now and then, but this was a proper gaming session. I ended up playing for a lot of hours last night. And it was the first time in a while where I just felt kind of happy playing with Total War again, which was really needed. Again, I was super burnt out. So because of that, I managed to start theory crafting again and just in general think about the possible future of Total War. And yeah, I want to talk about it. So, again, no speculation for a while, because I don't think that the community is ready for that, and to be honest, I don't think I'm ready for that too. But a topic that's been going around in my head, and that of my community when we've been discussing, is can Creative Assembly, or better yet said, do they have a chance at redeeming themselves? Something that I know isn't really there with a lot of hope lately, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of us love Total War. I don't think we want to see Creative Assembly die. What we want is for them to learn from their mistakes and never do this again. I know it sounds kind of odd to say considering that mistakes have been fairly common lately, but maybe this has been the wake-up call that they've actually needed. So I want to discuss a few things and see if they can actually redeem themselves, because, yeah, this needs to happen, and maybe Creative Assembly are watching this video. You never know. And they can take some ideas. I'm open to discussions. The first thing is we need a proper apology. And no, I don't mean whatever the hell happened a few weeks ago. I mean a honest apology. The fact is, a lot of companies, for some reason, they just don't want to admit fault. And I get that. But the problem is that when you fuck up so colossally badly, you need to just admit your fault. It shows that there are humans working inside the business. The fact of the matter is, while people would get annoyed when you've screwed up, a proper, actual apology is going to make you look better in the eyes of your fan base. Those are the people who are actually keeping the lights open in your studio. As much as Creative Assembly can think that they've done it all by themselves, if it wasn't for the people actually purchasing the titles, well, they wouldn't exist, and they need to start to realize that. I don't know when they went from actual small family-sized company to big corporate mentality, but that doesn't work, especially now when the gaming industry as a whole is imploding. Embracer just today have announced that they're laying off 900 people, and we've been seeing loads and loads of other studios going through cutbacks. Creative Assembly is going to go through cutbacks too, and Lord only knows if there's going to be a second round eventually when things don't get any better, because let's be honest, Total War Pharaoh is not going to sell DLC when it's not got active players. Sitting down someone and saying, hey, we're going to do better is going to be better for you. We've noticed that recently where Blizzard have publicly apologized for a bunch of issues with Diablo. Apparently the new season is doing better, and in general, it was something completely out of character. But it's very obvious that hiding your heads in the sand, like Creative Assembly are very famously known for, just does not work anymore. We want to be informed of what is going on. And when we invest 60 euros in a title or more, well, when things go badly, apologies need to be made. Understandably, they can't go into everything. I'm fairly certain that Sega are a big fault here for the price of the DLC, because it's just like most parent companies. Remember, the fall of Blizzard happened pretty much around the time of Activision's acquisition, right? And no, I'm not blaming Sega completely for this, because hyenas is a thing, or well, was a thing, but I very much doubt that we're going to get an apology from Sega. Creative Assembly, on the other hand, yeah. Possibly it could happen. When you do something bad, you're expected to apologize. It's that simple, right? We learnt that as children. Why do some executives and other higher-ups seem to forget that? Or do they just lose all sense of morality when they become a higher-up in a gaming company? Or just a company in general? If Creative Assembly want to build up faith and trust again to generate some more sales, they're going to have to do it in the most genuine way possible. And I don't think anyone is going to accept anything but an apology at this point. Alright, the big one. This is Total War Warhammer 3, and we're going to have to talk about this likely in a few different sections. The first thing is, Well, patches need to be properly tested. This is a very important thing, as recently, since 3.1, patches have been coming out and they've just not been working, and it's actually been hitting this subject for a while now. Just 3.1 was the more well-known one, but like if you go back to a lot of patches, oh, we fixed this, and it didn't happen. Tyrion Sunfang Quest, 3 times. There's clearly not enough attention being put into the development team. Maybe QA just don't get enough time to actually work on this, or maybe QA find it, but yeah, things get shipped out too soon. I'm not sure why this is happening. It's clearly, again, something to do with management, but we need better patching. I don't want a 20-page patch notes. I would rather have 2 pages, 3 pages at the most, and they all work. Why? Because that means that we're going to be in a better push there rather than dealing with constant letdowns. The only way that this is going to happen is with a Custodian team, let's be honest here, and this is a team that's not going to be working on future content. This is a team that's working on the live build and stuff that needs to be fixed up. Obviously, many of these issues could be linked up to the fact that, yes, we have tech debt, and let's be honest here, the Wallscape engine is pretty much collapsing into itself like a neutron star, but there needs to be a Custodian team. And, well, wouldn't you know, Creative Assembly are currently looking at getting rid of a lot of staff members. Rather than just getting rid of a bunch of people, put them on the Custodian team. This is not only just going to affect Warhammer, but this can affect future games also. Taking off the rose-tinted glasses for you historical fans, yes, your games are crap too, because the patching system breaks them. This is why, for example, Three Kingdoms is basically unplayable without the community bug fix mod, because there's a lot of bugs there. That is why the same thing with Attila, the same thing with a lot of other games. If Creative Assembly want to win a lot of favor back, a Custodian team is probably going to be the best way to go about it. DLCs, again, this is for Warhammer mostly, but it's going to affect us in the future with other historical titles if they ever come out, because yes, DLCs are a big money farm here. Right, we have to talk about this. DLC prices are likely not going to go down. Let's be honest here, Sega have probably set that price, right? It's fairly certain. I've been hearing some whispers that it was them, and they're not going to budge. What needs to be done is fill out those DLCs. Kind of helps having a Custodian team too, but yeah, they need to fill out these DLCs. While I don't know if they'll be able to do this for Shadows of Change, they're likely looking towards Thrones of Decay, which is pretty much their saving grace. We'll talk about that in a future video. But if Thrones of Decay does badly, then that's the end of Creative Assembly. Yeah, I know. It sounds dramatic, but it likely is, because they have no other active titles, they've got no money coming in. Yes, Pharaoh's an active title, but I mean, if your average player base is 1,000... yeah, it's not a good title. If we're going to be getting this new Lord Pack style, the whole 3 Legendary Lord situation, 3 units per side does not work. It needs to be the size of a race pack, essentially. If we're paying the same price as them, look at the Chaos Dwarfs, 29 new units more or less, well, there should be around 29 new units in these DLCs. That means also including, you know, generic lords, heroes, and stuff like that, but that means 10 per side, and it's not like they're not lacking for content. There's a bunch of things that we're missing, so there is literally no excuse now. And I would dare say, if there's factions which are just pretty much complete at this point, well, make up some new units, go into the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay section, there's a lot of stuff there, or again, make new units and get them approved by Games Workshop. It has happened before, it can happen again. Or at the very least, if there's just nothing, say for example, if we look towards, I don't know, another Tzeentch DLC, right? If there is nothing else and they can't do more than 4 units, well, make some units for someone else. Have them implemented in the story, just not with another Legendary Lord. Or, in the better way, have those units introduced as part of paid content, but attached to an FLC Legendary Lord, because FLCs need to come back properly. Have the FLC Legendary Lord attached to the story of the next DLC, and that means that you can incentivize people who might be apprehensive about the price to actually try out the story through the free Lord. Win back some favor. FLC Legendary Heroes are cool, don't get me wrong, but the fact is that we should be able to have both. If it's a 150% price rise, then a little bit more of the work can go into that, right? Now, Warhammer the Old World, and I know you're going to be saying Creative Assembly has said no plans, and yes, that's true. It's actually been something that has even been stated in an interview on my channel when I got to interview Rich Aldridge. But if they want this game to survive and they're lacking on units, then why not use Warhammer the Old World? It's not that difficult to get a license extension from Games Workshop. In fact, they would probably like that, considering that this game is going to act like a lot of promotion for Warhammer the Old World. We already know of some new stuff which is being implemented for Bretonnia, for example. Foot Knights, something that we haven't had for a long time. 2 different variants, hand weapon and shield, and then one with a great axe. Already 2 cool new units, right? Then we know that there's a new hero type there, a Baron, right? God knows what it does, we haven't seen anything about that yet, we won't be getting rules on Warhammer the Old World for a while, but that's already 3 new things. And the fact is that, again, we could likely see a lot of more new stuff appearing, because the way that Games Workshop works is planning ahead for a lot of the future, right? So maybe a year down the line, or when we actually get the full Bretonnia army book, we could actually see a lot of units that could justify, for example, a Bretonnia DLC, a Tomb King DLC. Those are the 2 launch factions, by the way, as we've known for a while, and all the factions, including Cafe and Kislev, are going to be there. The only one that isn't is the Vampire Coast, but I very much hope that Games Workshop have been looking at the DLC sales for that, going, yeah, it would be kind of fun to make them a tabletop army too. Personally, I would love to play them. It would be stupid of Creative Assembly not to at least try to bring in the old world into here, right? It doesn't need to be a new campaign, it doesn't need to be Fall of the Samurai levels of just a secondary game, and it doesn't need to be something else. It just needs to be another source book, essentially, for them to bring in new units to the game. And before people say that this hasn't happened, and this is a thing, this is why it pisses me off when Creative Assembly say that they can't, they've already done that, right? Kislev, Cafe, those weren't full armies in Warhammer Fantasy. I mean, Kislev had a small detachment, but that's pretty much it. So they've clearly been able to have one little bit of it. Why can they now not pick and choose? Now, these last 2 sections are going to be focusing around Total War Historical. I know this isn't the most interesting stuff for you guys. The large majority of you guys who watch my content are more interested in Warhammer, but I feel like we need to stick together here. So, first thing is, they need to flat out confirm that they are indeed working on historical games. Not going, hey, yeah, Medieval 3 next or whatever, but just show some basic renders of something that isn't too obvious, right? Talk about the fact that, yes, we're working on something. Bring what the teams we're working on back. You know why? Because that's going to at least pacify the fan base, which has largely been left ignored for the past, good lord, 8 years? Yeah, around 8 years or so. Because Pharaoh, let's be honest, is not a true historical. The moment they started making sure that characters can't age and became immortal, that's not a historical game. That's a truth behind the myth. We know there's another Total War in the works. It's likely going to be in a new engine, given some hints that we've seen over the past few months. But the fact is, we might not see that until next year, or at the very most the year after, considering, you know, again, cutbacks and so on. Stuff does get slowed down. It's very obvious, considering the Warhammer fan base is likely going to have to wait till, I don't know, February, March for Thrones of Decay, it feels like, at least, since we don't have 4.1 yet. But just even small hints, again, what the teams are working on, that was a great way of doing things. The only reason that blog failed was because they decided to go full idiot mode and confirm DLCs that were just not going to come. Cough, cough. You know? Northern Lords. And finally, have a smaller DLC team, kind of like a Custodian team, to keep the other Total War games alive. If there's not going to be another Rome game until, I don't know, let's just put a number here, 2030, right? Why not have some team working on a little bit of content for Rome? Also, have them make a little bit of content for Free Kingdoms. There has been leaks every now and then talking about like there's not going to be a Free Kingdoms 2. It was cancelled in 2021. I have a feeling it was cancelled literally from the moment that they made the future Total War Free Kingdoms video thing, because yeah, there was clearly no intention of making a second game, but it's still got decent players. It is very much loved as a title. Why not make some DLCs for the first one? Redeem yourselves for that fuck up 2-3 years ago. I don't know how long it's been now. It just feels depressing to even think about. Which means that you'd have a little bit of revenue stream coming in, but also it would save some jobs. The fact is, you could easily make money on these titles, the ones that aren't really getting anything. This was what originally CA Sophia were doing. Remember? They actually saved Rome 2 with a bunch of DLCs. Now, I'm not saying put CA Sophia back into that. We'll talk about CA Sophia in a little bit in this video, to be honest, but it's more of the case of just get a small team. It doesn't have to be a massive team, it just has to be efficient, and that's all really what matters there. And for a final note, what they need to do is take their time with content. Games don't need to come out on a yearly basis. It just means that they're just being rushed and it's just a cash grab. It causes more problems than it does good, and it leads to situations like what we've been dealing with since, May is when 3.1 came out? Yeah, I think it was May. It's not a good idea, and it's not a good time to be a Total War fan. I imagine it's not a good time to work for Creative Assembly either, but spread it out. You've got multiple teams. You've got CA Sophia. Let them have the time that they need to make a full title, because they're a good team. But having them work on Pharaoh was a God's honest mistake. Have them make the next Total War title, not the next Total War expansion. Imagine if we had two main teams. No sagas, just two main teams. We could have loads of really cool games. We could have them coming out on a good basis every 2 to 3 years rather than every year. And we could have no bloody issues like what we're having right now. I do believe that Creative Assembly can redeem themselves. It's going to take some time. This is probably why we've not seen 4.1 yet. I tell you what though, the expectations are high. If 4.1 isn't the best patch that we've ever gotten for Total War Warhammer 3, it's going to cause problems, and it's going to make people even more apathetic than they already are right now. But I wanted to just vent out some frustrations. I want them to do better. I think we all do. Sure, there's some people calling for the end of Creative Assembly. I just want to play games, man. I just want good games to play with. Maybe with everything that's happened, they'll wake up. I know some people said that this happened with other companies too, which it took like a big shit show to wake them up properly. Well, I really hope that they've learned. That's all I can say. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. To apologize if this one was a bit more off the cuff, passionate, screaming and so on. But the fact is, we need them to do better. There's a lot of people saying, oh yeah, again, Medieval 3, that's what they need to do. They just need to announce that. No, what they need to do is take their time, work on a good product, release a stable game. No more broken launches. This is an important thing. No more broken launches. No more broken DLCs, no more broken patches. What I want from Total War Warhammer is the same thing I've always wanted. I want this series to last longer than the 3 to 4 year mark. I want to see Ind, Kuresh, all that other stuff. We're not going to see it if shit hits the fan. I'm honestly quite surprised that Games Workshop haven't been monitoring the situation, but they might actually be doing so. There's all these rumors about Total War 40k, and if CA kill Warhammer Fantasy for the second time, I really don't think that they should do a Total War 40k. That's going to make their IP look even worse. But yeah, I just hope that we're up for some good times soon, mostly because I'm pretty fed up with the situation. As you've noticed, I've been taking more days off lately because, yeah, I just don't want to make an angry video. Well, all the time. I will make angry videos when I have to. It's just, it's not good for anyone. It's not good for me. When you're angry all the time, you just end up becoming bitter, and I just don't want that. Life is too fucking short. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's have a discussion. I'll see you all again very, very soon.